Hi, I'm Chris Schomburg, and I'm your SolidWorks instructor for today. We're going to be working on Chapter 6, Geometric Constructing Tools. And in this chapter, we're going to learn how to apply geometric relations, how to trim and extend, and how to use the offset command. And basically, the idea is to look for a profile sketch approach, and then be able to add click, drag, and fully define, and also add contours and that kind of thing. So we're going to get started. The first thing that I always do, and this is just me, is I always put in the eye and I actually include the planes. That's my first step. I always do that. The other thing that I always like to do is we have to have the sketch tool. So to get that, hit view, toolbars, and you have to enable the manager. Notice I don't have the sketch tool. That's really frustrating when that happens. So just go into view, toolbars, enable command manager. Now I can have the sketch tool, and it's absolutely critical to what we're doing today. So I'm going to get started. We just started on 6.1. You can see the dimensions for the gasket at the very start. That is in the all dimensions in millimeters. So the first thing that we always have to do in every part is we want to define our units. Now there's a reason why we define our units at the very beginning. One is so that it's consistent all the way through, so we don't have a jumble of different units all the way through. Also, if you're using the wrong units and then you convert, it will keep the same values, but it will not convert it. So here's what we have. mmgs is milligrams, so millimeter grams second. I said that wrong. We're going to use 2 sig figs, or 1, 2, or 2 decimal places. And so that's what we're going to use throughout. We're going to hit OK. You can tell it changes in the right-hand corner. It'll tell us what our units are. And so if you're ever on a part and you just want to make sure you know the units are right, you can just look at the bottom right-hand corner. So we've done that 2 ways, and that really is the first step. So that's 6-5. And then honestly, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with our sketch. So I'm going to go into, we could just click on the front plane, but I'm going to actually use our manager, our property manager feature design tree. So I'm going to click on the front plane there. I'm going to hit the sketch button and hit the sketch. I'm going to actually draw everything on the first quadrant without crossing either of the horizontal or vertical lines. And so to do that, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to sketch right here, here, and then I'm going to go down. Again, that's a vertical line. This is a horizontal line. That's another vertical line, and then a longer vertical line out here. Now, that's actually good enough for this first sketch, is to have something that looks like that. And mine looks a little skewed. Here's the thing, we can move things back and forth to make it look even better, maybe even look like the one that we have in front of us on step 6 to 6-6. So the next step is to actually go ahead and add a circle. So we can add a circle here. Here's the thing, it doesn't have to be defined on any spectrum. This is the nightmare of every single designer, is when somebody has not constrained anything, we don't know where anything belongs. So at this point, we're on step 13. So in this case, we're going to actually define a line, and we're going to concentric the line at this point from the circle, okay, and about 2/3 of our horizontal line. And hit automatically tangent, which is what we're going to do. Sorry, I took a step ahead. Let's go ahead, let's just click here, and let's go ahead and click here. There we go. Now let's escape out of this, and let's make sure, boy, it's alluding to what we're supposed to do. I don't want to do it yet. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to make sure that it's concentric, and we're going to go ahead, we're going to go like here. That looks like a concentric. You can see that's a concentric symbol right there. If I do not have these relations up, you can always click in the eye and hit View Sketch Relations. Now we don't have them, now we do have them. So they are the green sketch relations. If I zoom into that, it'll say that it's concentric, and that is a concentric arc to a point right down here, which is what we're looking for on 6-7. Now, the next step, honestly, once we've defined the concentric, is to actually adjust the drawing. So we're going to adjust it by dragging and moving this guy back and forth. Notice we can't move it vertically or either way, up or down. We can move it horizontally because it is somewhat defined. Again, it's not truly defined yet at this point. All right, so what it wants us to do is now start to just drag the planes until it kind of looks more like what we've been doing. I'm going to move this up here to look more like on 6-9, step 2. Okay. And if I go ahead and I move this guy along, we can move that like 6-2-3 or step 3. And we can kind of select and move this around, which is fine. Okay. The next step is then to go ahead and on your own time shape the sketch so it is on 6-9, step 4. So here what we see something way different. All of a sudden we went from step 3 to step 4, and step 4 looks different. Well, it's really different only because of one thing. This guy is moved in, okay, and this vertical line is moved out. That's the only difference. Then they move this guy up, and that now looks a lot like the shape is the same as what we have on 6-9, step 4. And so in 6-9, step 4, we have something that looks much more like what we're wanting to look at. Okay. So now they actually have us define using the smart dimension. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to smart dimension from the vertex of the circle to the very top horizontal vertex, which is actually at the top of the vertical line and at the far left-hand side of the top horizontal line. Now we can actually click on that and we should get a dimension. I'm going to put 59.4. We will change all of these later, so don't worry about these intermediate step sizes. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, now we're going to add a relation. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go to the display, delete, and delete relations. We're going to hit add a relation. We're going to go ahead, we're going to click, left mouse click on the inclined line, which is this one right here. Then we're going to pick on the circle, and we're going to hit tangent. Now you can see instead of a cotangent, we have a tangent button, which is right here on orange. And so now we have a tangent line. And what is the tangent? Well, the best way to define it, I can define it 3 ways. One is if you have a can, like a soup can, and you have a string on it, and you just rotate it and rotate it and rotate it and rotate, and then let go all of a sudden. Instantaneously, it will go in the tangent line. It's the same thing if you're driving a sports car, and all of a sudden you stop turning and you just go straight. You're going to go in a tangent line into the wall. Okay, it's the same idea as if all of a sudden we were a satellite. We're on a satellite orbiting the Earth. It's going in a tangent line, and if the Earth's orbit just all of a sudden disappeared, we would just go into a tangent line straight off into space. Okay, so we've defined the tangent line. We're going to hit OK. The next step here is really that we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the trim function. We haven't used this before, and I have told you about it, but I wasn't supposed to tell you now. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit the extend button, and we're going to extend this line right here, and it extends it to the surface of the circle. Okay, so we got that, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to the next one. Okay, so the next one is we're going to actually go ahead and trim. So the trim function allows us to, if we draw this line across this, it trims that out. All right, now that's pretty good. So we have something that's starting to look better. The next step is to actually trim the circular section. And now we have a surface. Notice it's a hatch in AutoCAD, but in this is actually a closed surface. So now we have a closed surface. Now we have to define another smart dimension. So I'm going to dimension right here from the high point to the lowest point, and I'm going to dimension that vertical line. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dimension it at 37.75 and hit enter. Okay, so now we have it pretty much dimensioned how we want it to be. It should represent what we see on 6-13, step 16 or 17. Okay, now they actually talk to us a little bit more again about those relationships. If we turn off the eye, we turn off everything. We don't really want that. But what we can do is we can turn off the eye and then we can turn off the relationships. Notice our green little symbols disappear. We want our green little symbols. We want to see that this is a tangent. We want to see this is a vertical line. We want to see this is a horizontal line, and vice versa, all the way true. Okay, so now we're going to go into the display and delete relations. Okay, we're going to go ahead. Oh, a sec. I had to hit OK. So I'm going to hit display and delete relations. Now let's go ahead and hit fully define sketch. That's good. That's what we want. We're going to make sure this is our point of origin. Okay, there, and we should have a point, a vertical point, and I think we want to actually click from this button to this button. So that should define it as a line. Hit OK. It will define everything with all kinds of dimensions. If you didn't click from this vertex to the bottom vertex, it'll start defining to the origin, and you don't want it defined to the origin. So that's just the only thing that I will say about that step. Again, these are fictitious. Don't worry about the sizes necessarily at this point. On our own time, we're actually now supposed to size them up. So what we're going to do is this one right here is going to be change the larger values first. So the largest value right here was the 50. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 200. Okay. The next one is that is very large. It's our 37, and I'm going to define that as 120. Enter. Okay, we're starting to get something that looks better. If you get too, if it gets hard to look at, hit the fit button, the F button. And then, okay. So then this one right here did the 200, we did the 100, we should do the longest one, which is, I'm actually going to define, see, this is silly. I'm actually going to trim a couple, or I'm actually going to delete a couple of these because they're silly. So first of all, I'm going to delete that one. I'm going to delete that one. And I'm going to delete that one. I'm going to define one. And I'm going to make it look like what we see on figure 11 off of page 6.16. And so what we need is we need from this vertex to this vertex, we need that to be equal to 180. So that's good. Okay. And then we want to go ahead, we want this to be defined from here to here. So I'm going to actually delete this one as well. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some more dimensions. It automatically did those dimensions, and they were not going to be the same as the one that you get in the book. And so I'm not so worried about that. I'm going to dimension this here. Once it tells us to dimension it to something that the book has, then we can kind of take our own liberalities at that point. Okay, so then we need this one from this vertex right here to this vertex right here. We want that to be 50. Okay, so it's starting to look better, starting to look closer to what the book has. Okay, so we need to change this to 45. Enter. Okay, that looks much, much better. Okay, here's the thing. If we want these to be vertical, we can either rotate them like that. There might be a way to do an angle there too, but I haven't done that very often. Sometimes it works a little better than others, but you can use a leader or something like that. The other one that works is if these two are horizontal, so we have to turn our head, you can click on them, one click, and then you can say select the offset text, and then that actually works as well. That just makes it a unilateral dimensioning. So this is unilaterally dimensioned at this point. We have everything that we want dimensioned at this point. We're good there. Now we're going to go into it. We're going to hit in the display and delete relationships, we're going to hit the add dimension. We're going to select the vertex point. And then we're going to select our origin point. And then we're going to say concentric. It moved our whole part to that vertex point, which is amazing. So that helps. It actually helps us be able to see that a little better. I'm going to hit OK at this point. We do talk about, students asked this last time, why do we hit the the green arrows all the time, and why don't we hit escape? Escape is just a little faster. It's a short key. Hitting the green arrow is what you're supposed to do, but it gets a little bit tiring if you've been a SolidWorks person for a long time. Okay, so the next step is to go ahead and go into the sketch fillet. Okay, we're on 6-17. We're going to click on the sketch fillet. We're going to say sketch fillet. We're going to go ahead. We're going to click first on this horizontal line at the very top of the sketch, and then we're going to click on the circle. We're going to change this. Okay, we're going to change this to 20 millimeters. Okay, and then we're going to hit OK. That looks good. Now it did actually define this. We can move that later, so don't worry about it yet. We have another one that we want to define. So that's from this line to the very horizontal line. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to keep that at 20. We're going to hit OK. Don't worry about the dimensions right now. Just define your fillets. Okay. Hit OK. Okay. And then we have one more right here, which is at this vertical line to the horizontal line. And we're also going to hit OK. Now we have all these 20s fillets, which is what we're looking for, and we can actually go ahead and hit OK. Now, if you want to move the dimensions now, you can, and so you don't have to have them all snugged up to everything else. It's not helpful sometimes to see them that way, so it's maybe better like that. You can also, let's say you like this one, but you think it's a little bit silly, you can also redimension that with the offset if you need to, or you can just define it more vertically like that. Just scoot it up a little bit. There is also a way to change the way that it's actually written, like linear, how it's auto-dimensioned, and that's another thing that you can go into right there. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I think it's fine that what we see is we see basically a round. I'm not going to get into too much detail. The book doesn't get us into that detail yet, so don't be too concerned with that. Okay, so the next step is to actually extrude. So we're going to go Features, Extrude Boss, okay, and then really all they want us to do is Extrude Boss. They really want us to be in a isometric view or something like that. They're going to actually just go ahead and have us extrude at this point. Yeah, so what do they want us to extrude to? There's a lot of conversation here that I'm just gonna kind of go over. It really isn't until so the extrude that they say on 6-18 is a 5 millimeter. So we're gonna go 5 millimeter. We're gonna hit enter, and we're gonna hit escape or the arrow. Either way is fine. So this is actually the extruded surface that we're looking for. If we hit the fit, it looks exactly like what we see in the book. That's exactly what we want. The next step is to actually, we're going to do something different here, is that we're going to define I'm going to skip the lasso. So I'm going to skip through I'm going to skip from page 619 to this point, the offset. So this is going to be to 625. So I don't really want to go ahead and do the whole lasso section. So what I'm wanting to do then is to go back, just start back on 625. We're going to do the create an offset extrude cut feature. And to do this, we're going to go ahead, we're going to go back in, right click, let's hit this sketch. There we go. Now, again, it's one of those things like all of the relations and everything is a little bit too much. That's all right. So let's go ahead, let's hit Vert Entities. Why will it not let me select select the surface. Okay, let's go ahead, let's try the opposite. Let's say offset entities. There we go. And let's hit reverse. 5. I'm not seeing it actually. The problem is I'm not seeing it actually select it. Usually it'll preview it, so it should be previewing at this point. There we go. So now I have actually selected the entities. I'm going to reverse it. I'm going to go, it says to actually put it at 5 millimeters. So we actually put it at 5 millimeters and then try it. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to skip that step because the next step is to change it to 15. Well, we want it to be 15, so we're going to hit OK. So now that I've gone ahead and I put the offset at 15, I had to actually click on the whole strand that we're seeing, like the whole strand of the lines together. And I had to click kind of on the relations of those lines to be able to do that. But basically, you could either lasso or do that somehow through those steps. But basically, what we've gone ahead and done is we then have this 5, this 15, 5 and then 15. You're supposed to select 15 later, is then offset. And so then the real easy step is to go ahead and to exit the sketch at this point and extrude it, cut through it, which is funny because I don't remember ever telling it to do an extrude cut. So I'm like, okay, well, that's nice that it did that. But it did that automatically because here's why. Because the sketch itself is actually within the sketch plane, and you're going back to define the sketch, and it then when you hit OK, it automatically does that extrude cut. So you don't have to do it in 2 separate cuts, because honestly, it had already defined it in the sketch plane, and then when it was redefined, it was defined in that same way. If you don't believe me on that, what we can do is we can go back to the sketch here, and we can go ahead and we can select both entities and then hit exclude. You see it's actually defining, is it defining it internally? And so this is one of those things, if you define, if you're within the sketch and then you define this, it'll do that. And if we're outside of the sketch, it will do something different. So I'm going to go back. I know, like, this is exactly what we want, but I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to show you the other way. So if we go like this, we go into this sketching plane. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go back to the offset, and I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go to trim, and I'm going to just trim this whole thing out. Okay, and then I'm going to hit OK. Exit. Now we have what we see is basically this boss plane right here. So now the other way is that we actually have to hit the sketch on this plane. Okay, and then we have to go ahead and we have to sketch concentric entities, intersect curve. This way we're actually selecting the face. We're gonna hit that, okay. Then we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna do offset of these guys, then we're gonna hit reverse, okay. So this is the other way of doing it. So this way we have drawn a surface first, the solid surface first, and now we're drawing onto that solid surface. We're drawing onto the SolidWorks part, and now we're actually putting a reverse direction of our offset as 15. We hit OK. Guess what we have now? So what we have is we have something that's drawn onto the surface versus something that's the featured part, and when it's extruded, it only extrudes a thin surface. So that's the differences between the two things that we just did. And it's kind of, it's subtle, but it actually is a big difference on how SolidWorks approaches it. So now we hit exit the sketch, we're good. Now we go to features, we go ahead and we select extruded cut. And now we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna hit through all. We're gonna hit OK, and guess what? We get the same thing that we had before. but in this case we had to do an extra step. I'm just saying. So now we actually have our answer, which is what we're looking for. We can go into the isometric view, and now we have what we're looking for, which is gasket. We're going to save this as gasket 2, and we're just going to save it there. So we're going to go ahead at this point. We're going to save this again. In my class, you should probably say your last name. My last name is Schomburg, and then this should be part 5, and then we're going to call this one gasket 2. Okay, and I do typically save it under the week. So I'm going to save it under week 5, and I'm going to go ahead and save that. Okay, so if I turn off the junk, that kind of gives us a better view of what that looks like, and that's actually a pretty good thing. Okay. The offset geometry associated with the original geometry on your own, adjust the height and design to 115 meters, and instead of the change, which is 120 vertical, and to 105. So all we're doing now, all right, I should be able to, just like last week, to go show feature dimensions. There we go. So just like last week, we were able to show the feature dimensions. I'm gonna, I keep accidentally hitting the color. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna pull out the datum planes, or the primary planes. We're going to adjust this, the whole length, the overall height of design, to 150 meters. So it was 120. Okay. So instead of 120, we want to go ahead and change this to 150. Okay, and then instead of 180, oh, so we actually want this to be 115. Sorry, I just said that wrong. Ugh. This guy's too close. Okay, so this one right here is 110. Okay, that's what we want, 110, and we want this guy, no, it's 105. This is so silly. Okay, so that's 105, and this one right here is 150. Now, if you were wondering, somehow it didn't like what I was doing. Fine. 150. Enter. Cool. Done. All right. It's like, okay. Change it to an isometric view again. Boy, what is going on? Why is it? Oh, okay. All right. Click on fit. Fit should even work. It's not working right now. Okay. So we should have 105 and 150. Those are the two dimensions that we did change. We should be able to go into the annotations and select feature dimensions, delete them. Now, I do not know why it's not hollow all the way through. Let's look at our example. It should be cut all the way through. There we go. Okay. And the dimension shouldn't be showing up. There we go. There. I don't know why I gave it such a hard time there, but basically this is the feature. We're going to go ahead and we're going to save it. It was just one minor change that they had us do at the very end. Not a big deal, not a very hard thing to change. Again, make sure that you're always in isometric drawings to see this. At the end, they have a shadow. Okay, so they have a shadow, I don't. That's okay. Those types of things don't really matter that much. What does matter is that we get the basic feature and the basic eventual feature that we have. This is Gasket 2 on 628, and I can save it at this time. And we have file, save. We have saved it at this time. Yeah, I think that's essentially what we have for this segment of SolidWorks. I hope you enjoyed that.